Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. We're going to be talking about the Europa Conference League, the new debuting European Cup competition that UEFA have put in place for this season going forward. I just wanted to get some of my thoughts out there about this because this has been something that obviously hasn't gone down too well and many people aren't too excited about it. But I just wanted to put my thoughts out there about this whole competition as a whole and talk about why it's been formed and why we should at least sort of give it a bit of a chance, I guess you'd say. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe for new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get back to talking about the UEFA Europa Conference League for this season. So, the Europa Conference League, a third-tier European Cup competition, debuts this season. And like I say, it's safe to say that many people aren't exactly too pleased or excited by the idea of a third-tier European competition. We can kind of accept that the Europa League is a thing and is created and now is a staple within European Cup football. Everybody needs a sort of second tier prize, I guess you call it, towards the Champions League, toward the pinnacle of cup competition football. But did they really need to make a third tier? Did they really need to make a third competition? Look, let's face it, the main reason behind the creation of this whole other tournament is money. That is the driving force behind everything in sport these days, everything in football these days. And yes, it is an extremely sad truth, but it is a truth nonetheless. UEFA have created a third-tier competition with money being the incentive behind it all. Regardless of how they attempt to justify its creation, regardless of how they try and spin it as to why this competition has been created, they saw the pound or euro symbols right from the off to be made from this kind of competition. Again, a sad truth, but a truth nonetheless. But it's not just money that I believe is the major reason behind this third tier cup competition forming. And you know what, I would be stupid if I wasn't to say that would be the main driving force, because of course it is. Of course UEFA want to dry up the money well that is club football and cup competitions dry, and that is why they've created this third tier competition. I'd be stupid enough not to say that is the main reason behind it, but I do believe that there are smaller reasons behind the formation of this that will actually benefit certain parts and certain areas of football as well. One of them, I believe, is to make the Europa League seem more appealing. It's that whole thing of like, how do you make yourself look more attractive? You just stand next to someone who's slightly uglier than you. Make yourself look more attractive by default and stuff like that. You have the Europa League, which is already seen by many as the BTEC Champions League. It's the second tier European Cup competition, so it's obvious that it's going to be seen like that. It's mocked in comparison to the Champions League. It's not taken seriously by many until it gets to the latter stages of the tournament. And now you have it seen more appealing just because you've added a third tier club competition, in which obviously the competition is going to be somewhat less than what it would be in the Europa League. It's going to be obviously with lesser known teams, which may seem like it makes it slightly more easier to win. And that's just how I think that many of the bigger clubs across Europe, not just some of the fans of them bigger clubs, but just the clubs themselves, may actually see that competition. Of course, they'll respect it, they have to. But that is how they will see it when obviously not talking about it. The Conference League, with all due respect, will consist of real small and minor teams for the majority of it, that not many people would have heard of, from smaller nations of domestic club football. And whilst it would be historic and incredible for those clubs to participate in such a competition against some of the bigger teams from across Europe, some of the bigger nations from across Europe, some of the bigger footballing nations, it's likely that those teams are just there to make up the numbers. You've seen it time and time again when it's come to Champions League and Europa League qualifying, that some of those teams are just there to make up the numbers and to try and make it seem a little bit more interesting and give everybody a sort of fair chance. Some of those teams you've heard of, some of those teams that you've heard of every now and again, but some of those teams are ones that you're only just hearing about for the first time. And that is why they've now created three tiers of Club Cup European competitions, because there's so many teams, because there's a lot more money to be made, and because it's to make each tier of Club Cup football more appealing. But let's face it, I talked about some of the bigger clubs from around Europe there, and touched upon that. And let's face it, it may be a small priority for those bigger clubs. It would definitely be a good thing, though, for those smaller European clubs out there. They're the kind of teams who are seemingly unlikely to break into that Europa League and Champions League bracket, get them places within their own domestic league, and actually try to make something of it. Make something out of nothing, basically. Get that kind of Champions League money, get that Europa League money, and so on and so forth. So I think that will heavily benefit those smaller clubs out there of the smaller nations, particularly in both a financial way and in an experience way. Getting on a European level, they'll get to relish both the exposure of performing on a bigger stage and, of course, the competition of facing some of the bigger clubs from around Europe as well. And that is, of course, what a new European competition would obviously throw at them. Not only that, but it would help towards the game being more inclusive to everyone, which is, of course, what UEFA and FIFA, I know that I'm bringing FIFA into this, but that everybody is trying to be more inclusive to everybody going forward within this game. And we know that some of these smaller clubs do have some of the most loyal and passionate fans in world football, and it will help to create a positive and proper atmosphere wherever they go. So I can see it benefiting the game in some parts and benefiting the smaller clubs in particular as well. It's safe to say that overall, the reaction to this third tier club football competition hasn't exactly been a positive one. It hasn't gone down too well, but I think that is because I'm seeing more of the opinions of bigger clubs, and I think there's a bit of snobbish behaviour about their views towards the Europa Conference League and even the Europa League to an extent, and it's completely understandable in some ways. Supporters of Liverpool, Manchester United, PSG, Bayern Munich, Juventus, Manchester City, so on and so forth, don't want to be associated with a third tier competition when the Champions League is obviously the elite level, the pinnacle level of club football. And that's the one that everybody dreams of winning. No one dreams of winning the Europa League. No one dreams of winning the Conference League. Everyone dreams of winning the Champions League. But at the end of the day, some of these European clubs will never get to that level. They'll never get the chance to perform on such a massive stage. They'll never get the chance to perform some sort of maybe miracle story about how they got into the Champions League and upset some of the big boys in that, or even to an extent the Europa League, like I mentioned. And so they have to make do with an alternative. They have to make do with a, seems almost disrespectful to call it a bit of a consolation prize, but essentially that's what it sort of is. Yes, money is a driving force behind its creation. We've discussed that, we talked about that, we know that. But it's nice for the smaller and less known European clubs to perform on a European stage, a bigger stage than just their domestic league, and also gain something from it, both in terms of experience and in terms of financial income. And it's something nice for their fans as well. It's something great for their supporters and fans to obviously go and travel and also experience some of Europe's biggest games from wherever they're playing. It will be great for them. It will be incredible for them. And final point on this, it's also given a team like Tottenham their greatest chance of actually winning a trophy. Sorry, I just couldn't let that slide. I couldn't let that slide. I had to get a bit of Tottenham banter in there, but still true. But those are just some of the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the Europa Conference League? It might seem a bit all over the place, this video, but I just wanted to get some of the thoughts and opinions of myself on this topic, on this third tier European competition out there for you to discuss, because I think it is an interesting talking point, and I think some people maybe haven't considered the opinions of some of these smaller or less known clubs. I just wanted to know what your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, or whatever you want to call it are on this topic, because I'm sure they'll make for interesting reading down below in the comments section. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Best things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch.